committing a murder, and we were doing a pilot project at the time on dealing with what eventually became an outpatient commitment law in New York State. And it was interesting that Andrew Goldstein's illness was not sufficiently severe to meet our pilot project criteria. Next. So what do you do? WHO under Benedetto Saraceno shifted from a biomedical model, and the biological aspects of mental illness are glorious. I'm a fellow of the Collegium Internationale of Neuropsychopharmacology. I happily follow new drug developments, but we're always searching for the talisman, the magic bullet, the magic ring that controls them all. You have to think of psychosocial rehabilitation as a totality. Instead of a bullet, we're kind of looking for a net. But we shift to the biopsychosocial, from short-term to long-term care. We look at comorbidities, and we try to get to primary care. But, next. That's got some problems. Primary care is overburdened. Primary care practitioners are often uneducated. They don't have supervision. They don't have specialist support. They lack means for diagnosis and treatment, like medications, although in the United States more antidepressants are prescribed by primary care physicians than by psychiatrists. Next. And we've been at the medical home promotion since 1967. Here are some of its characteristics, and we don't have a lot to show for it yet. Now we're into accountable care organizations. Next. So here are some of the ways you can look at how you can get primary care going. You've just got to support them with ongoing specialist consultations, information technology. You have to recognize them, and you have to make sure they're involving the patients and their families. Next. Now, I'm going to take you back to give you a sense of why this project is so important to the earlier Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, number 2. And our social psychiatry and community psychiatry investigations can be said to begin in 1939 with Farris and Dunham looking at census tracts in Ohio, but these were generally static variables like poverty, social class, variables that were external to the person. So here are 3 books about the Midtown study that was done in Manhattan, Mental Health in Metropolis, Life, Stress, and Mental Health, published in 1960s. And then a 20-year follow-up book, Personal History and Health, which I'll come back to. Sterling County is in Nova Scotia, and the notion then was culture is really important. And here's a great area where there are French-Canadian and English-Canadian villages along the Bay of Fundy. And let's look at them and show the virtues and weaknesses of the different cultures. And based on the findings from this, a study was done in the western region of Nigeria, which I count as my first publication because I have a few pages in that book on a validation study. Next. What it turned out was that there wasn't any difference between well-functioning villages, French, English, or Nigerian. What it had to do with how well these strivings were satisfied. And here are some things you could look at in terms of how the community is functioning. Do people feel physically secure? Is there sexual satisfaction? Is there expression of hostility, of love, of spontaneity? And again, the hostility is not, do you have it? The question is, can you turn it into positive energy? Can you secure love and recognition? Do you have an orientation to your own place in the world and other people's places? Do you have a relationship to a moral order? Next. So I would suggest that you can look at the project in terms of these evaluation criteria, which are external, but you should also have an idea on an individual basis about those strivings. If your project works well, then next, you will be building the community. And there's no way to build the community unless you're in the community. You can't sit in a clinic or a hospital and change the community. You have to be out there. You have to show it works. But if it works, then everyone finds a role. the standard slogan is, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Working in the community enables you to involve more people in the solution. So you have the choice. You can spiral up or you can spiral down. And people are constantly asking themselves, how am I? How are things going? There's a sense of morale, a sense of progress, or a sense of defeat. And I praise you for what you are doing, because I think you will be contributing to that vital sense of progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tinter. That was an enlightening speech indeed. Now, to speak on the genesis of Shamil, I would like to invite Mr. Shamil, who is the CEO of Aman Foundation, to come onto the stage, please.
It's a tough act to follow. That was a tremendous presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Tainter, for that. On behalf of Aman Foundation and iCare, we're very pleased to see such a good attendance for what we think is the beginning of something that should grow into an effective and a large collaborative effort to a problem that is not even properly sized or acknowledged. I was very relieved to hear some of the numbers shown for the US, because the research that we have access to in Pakistan is certainly extremely conservative, and I will be sharing some of those slides with you, almost to the point that you put them up there and then you say, but actually, if you think about it, you have from different sources, even in the non-English speaking developed West, you have a depression rate of about 11-12%. We're talking about Scandinavia, etc., from some sources. Then you have depression rates or mental health illness statistics which talk about 20, 22, 23% in a range for the English-speaking West, and we're talking about what sometimes gets described as selfish capitalism economies. Then you have the third world, where data is very scarce, and we have some sense of what this problem must be more accurately described to be. So, for example, if you talk to different sector experts, they'll tell you that, we're not comfortable talking about this because we don't have the statistics, but we would say very safely that depression rates are close to 45%. When I say depression, I'm kind of using it loosely to mean all mental health afflictions. And when we talk about some of the stress-related stuff, we're talking about yet another larger number, which are psychosomatic illnesses which don't manifest themselves or lend themselves to easy recognition. But let me just begin off by saying that at Aman we're very excited to be hosting you here and being a part of a launch that iCare and Aman are doing. But when we talk about mental health, and some of you over here who I recognize in the audience know that I'm a counselor by night and have a passion about mental health. And one of the things that I'd like to share with you is कि मेरी दीवानगी पर होश वाले बहस फरमा दें, मगर पहले उन्हें दीवाना बनने की ज़रूरत है. So in order to be able to actually be a good counselor, you have to have received counseling. And I think that is a very important part of the journey, and is something I would encourage everybody to participate in. So Shamil was conceptualized at Aman, but let me first draw you to a fundamental belief that I hold and share with my team at Aman. So if you can get to the first slide. Okay, let's see. So one summer vacation I was reading this book, Escape from Freedom, and I couldn't find the book, so I've sort of made up the quote, so don't quote it directly. But what really sort of triggered this whole excitement about mental health is that man has progressed into the 21st century. Look at technology today, look at how materially, especially in the West, you see it, or you see it in Islamabad.